today we are honored and privileged to have a professor of pathology and anatomy, the vice president and executive vice dean at Morehouse School of Medicine, Dr. Sandra Harris-Hooker. Welcome, Dr. Harris-Hooker.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are so happy to have you because I know that our subject matter is near and dear to your heart, and that is mentoring. So at Morehouse School of Medicine, this is becoming more and more a part of the fabric. But I know that it stemmed from somewhere. Where did the whole concept of mentoring, especially on the faculty level, where did that start?
Well, it started certainly some years ago. We are still a relatively young institution. So we found that many of our faculty were junior, if you will, or mid-level. And so we knew that to give them what's needed in terms of mentoring was something that we should and needed to do. So we started early on knowing that we needed to mentor our faculty. However, we've now made it much more structured than it was in the beginning. Okay. And so mentoring at Morehouse has always been a part, as you said, of our fabric.
And so I know that part of our fabric as well as an institution has been our CMI Grant. And so tell me a little bit about the CMI Grant. We've had Dr. Bond was here, and he talked a little bit about it, but I know that you've been there the whole time with that. So how does that relate to what's going on at Morehouse School of Medicine?
Well, our CMI program, and we use acronyms so much, the Research Centers in Minority Institution, which the acronym stands for, actually started as our infrastructure building programs. The idea was that in order for us, that is minority serving institutions, to do well, we too should have the infrastructure for doing research. But that program has grown from just building the infrastructure for doing research to the people that are part of that infrastructure. So you have the buildings, you have facilities, but at the end of the day, you must have people. And so those people are our faculty. And so the RCMI program, under the auspices of Dr. Bond, and he chose Dr. Winston Thompson to head this initiative, actually moved to saying, okay, to do this and do it well, let's make sure that we have in place a mentoring academy. A mentoring academy, a structure by which we can make certain that all of our faculty at some point in their career are exposed to mentors.
Gotcha. And so how does that structure play in from an executive point of view? Tell me how it's viewed, how important is it?
Well, it's extremely important. And one might say, well, you don't have to have a structured program in order to have mentoring, and they're absolutely correct. However, to have an academy and have a program says that let's lay this out in a strategic manner, making certain that what everyone gets, while it's different for every individual, everyone has the opportunity because it's institutionalized. It's a part of what we do. And so that's what it means to the institution, that we have a process by which we do this. We have a strategy by which we address this. And at the end of the day, everyone has an exposure to being mentored.
Right, and I know that in everything we're trying to systematize and incentivize, and so tell me a little bit about the incentive to be mentored, to become a mentor.
Well, it's actually, in my opinion, it goes both ways, okay? What I mean by both ways is the mentor and the mentee. When you think about it, when one mentors another, then there's so much the individual that's doing the mentoring receives. That is, in order to mentor, there's a certain background and skill. You want to be ready to do that. So you do your homework, if you will, to make certain that you are doing and you're exposing the mentee to what they need to be exposed to. But you also find that in that interchange between the mentor and the mentee, there's a lot that mentee will bring up that you may not have thought about. And so that education, if you will, goes both ways, between the individual that's doing the mentoring
and the individual that's being mentored. So in a perfect world, what would the ideal mentor-mentee relationship look like? How often do they get together, and what do they do?
Well, the frequency, I think, is going to be, once again, individualized. What we do not want to do is be so prescriptive, okay? That, okay, every Monday at 2 o'clock at da-da-da-da-da-da. That might not fit everyone. So you start off with a conversation, you do some level of assessment, and you find out those areas that the person may need more contact with than others, and then you schedule from there. They may be very strong, when it comes to, say, content of what their research area is, but it might be, okay, what's my next step? Okay, after I complete this, what do I really want to look at next? What's my career path? Do I want, so you really have to get to know the individual. I think maybe to talk about the wrong way to do it is not to say that everyone follows the same path, because everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. So I think a strong mentor finds out the makeup of that individual, and then that's the framework that you lay out between the mentor and the mentee.
So it's really more of a long-term
yes,
commitment relationship.
Exactly. That's it. And it may not be that one person. Okay, there may be a mentor that's strong in one area and not in another. So one mentee may have more than one mentor. And that's also what our program does. Our program says that you might have to take a team approach. There might be one that talks with you about the career path, and then there's someone else might talk to you about a research part of what you're doing. So,
I was sitting here laughing on the inside because everybody wants to be mentored by the person that they can see the most. And so what happens when everybody wants you to mentor them?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be me, but if someone wanted that same person, I think we really would have to speak to that mentee and find out what it is that they need, because they may feel that they want that individual, but after that conversation, there may be several others that can accomplish that same goal. Because the other side of that, you don't want to burn out the mentor either, and so they're not giving as much as they can to a particular mentee.
And so as we look to systematize this across the institution, it's not very structured, but structured enough.
Yes.
And then the incentive is to give and to receive.
Exactly.
So that Morehouse School of Medicine shines brighter and brighter all the time.
That's exactly right. And Morehouse School of Medicine, and I won't go into history, but we are flexible enough and have always been flexible enough to recognize that all of the mentors may not be at Morehouse School of Medicine. So we are prepared, when necessary, to pull from our colleagues outside of Morehouse School of Medicine to be a part of our mentoring structure.
And that's incredible. And it just really speaks to the relationships that we have at the executive level and the history of the institution across the board. Well, thank you, Dr. Harris Hooker. That is incredible. I'm looking forward to all of the things that come from the exciting relationships that will continue to build on an already great foundation at Morehouse School of Medicine.
Well, thanks to my colleagues and leadership here at Morehouse School of Medicine for recognizing and seeing yet another vision as we move down this path to excellence.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Gina Towns Thompson, and we will see you on the next episode of Mentoring Me, Morehouse School of Medicine Excellence.